As Europe entered the Age of Enlightenment, China was experiencing a golden age under the Qing dynasty. Emperor Yongzheng strengthened the government and improved tax collection, while his successor, Emperor Qianlong, presided over one of the most prosperous periods in Chinese history. The empire expanded across vast territories, and China's population surged from around 150 million to more than 300 million people. Agriculture, trade, and manufacturing flourished, making China one of the world's largest economies. By the mid-1700s, the Qing Empire stood as one of the most powerful and wealthy states on earth. The Qing rulers did not simply govern China, they expanded it. Between 1755 and 1759, Qing armies launched major campaigns into Central Asia. After defeating the Dzungar Khanate, they secured control over Xinjiang, bringing vast new territories under imperial rule. At its greatest extent, the Qing Empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the deserts and mountains of Central Asia, incorporating Tibet, Mongolia, and Xinjiang into a unified imperial system. These conquests created many of the borders that continue to shape modern China today. Yet beneath its strength, signs of future challenges were beginning to emerge. In 1793, Britain sent Lord Macartney to China, hoping to expand trade and establish stronger diplomatic relations. The British arrived with scientific instruments, gifts, and proposals for new commercial access, but Emperor Qianlong saw little need for foreign goods. Confident in China's prosperity and self-sufficiency, the Qing court rejected Britain's requests. The mission ended in failure. The encounter revealed a growing gap between an industrializing Europe and a Qing empire that remained focused on preserving its traditional order, a divide that would have profound consequences in the century ahead. By 1815, the Qing dynasty ruled the largest and most populous empire in its history. Yet even at the height of its power, new challenges were emerging from beyond its borders, challenges that would soon transform both China and the world. At the beginning of the 18th century, Britain took a historic step toward becoming a world power. In 1707, the Acts of Union joined England and Scotland into a single state, the Kingdom of Great Britain. The new nation combined resources, markets, and political institutions under one government. At the same time, Britain's economy began to transform. Inventors improved textile production, merchants expanded overseas trade, and growing industries demanded more coal and iron. While much of Europe remained agricultural, Britain was laying the foundations for a revolution that would soon change the entire world. By the middle of the century, Britain was becoming both an industrial and imperial power. Factories powered by new machinery increased production on an unprecedented scale. Coal mines, iron foundries, and steam-powered inventions transformed the economy. Meanwhile, Britain fought France in the 7 Years' War, often called the First Global Conflict. Victory brought Canada under British control and greatly expanded British influence in India. Yet success came with challenges. In North America, Britain's 13 colonies rebelled. After years of war, Britain recognized American independence in 1783, losing a vast territory while retaining its growing global empire. Despite losing the American colonies, Britain's power continued to grow. Its greatest strength was the Royal Navy. In 1805, during the Napoleonic Wars, Admiral Horatio Nelson led the British fleet to victory at the Battle of Trafalgar. The defeat shattered Napoleon's hopes of controlling the seas. British naval dominance secured trade routes across the globe and protected an expanding empire stretching from the Caribbean to India. By 1815, Britain emerged from decades of conflict as the world's leading maritime and industrial power, setting the stage for the vast British Empire of the 19th century. Britain was a smaller island nation, but one that pioneered industrialization and built the strongest navy on earth. While Qing China reached the height of its traditional imperial power, Britain was creating a new model of power, built not on population or territory, but on industry, technology, and global trade. The Kingdom of Louis XVI, 1700 to 1789. At the beginning of the 18th century, France was Europe's most powerful kingdom, with a population larger than any of its rivals and a rich culture admired across the continent. French influence could be felt everywhere, from royal courts to art, fashion, and philosophy. The magnificent Palace of Versailles symbolized the power of absolute monarchy, where kings ruled by divine right and nobles served the crown. Yet beneath this glittering surface, problems were growing. Expensive wars, government debt, and rising food prices created widespread hardship. As Enlightenment thinkers challenged traditional authority, many French citizens began demanding political reform. By 1789, the old order was about to face its greatest challenge: revolution and terror, 1789 to 1794. In 1789, revolution erupted across France. Citizens demanded liberty, equality, and political representation. The National Assembly issued the Declaration of the Rights of Man, proclaiming that all citizens possessed fundamental rights. The monarchy quickly lost its authority. In 1793, King Louis XVI was executed by guillotine, ending centuries of royal rule. But the revolution soon turned violent. During the Reign of Terror, thousands of suspected enemies of the revolution were arrested and executed. France was transformed from a kingdom into a republic, but the future remained uncertain. The rise of Napoleon, 1799 to 1815. Out of the chaos emerged a brilliant military commander, Napoleon Bonaparte. In 1799, Napoleon seized power and soon crowned himself Emperor of the French. Through a series of remarkable victories, he conquered much of continental Europe and built an empire stretching from Spain to Poland. Wherever French armies marched, they carried revolutionary ideas: legal equality, modern administration, and the end of many feudal privileges. Yet Napoleon's ambition ultimately led to conflict across the continent. After years of war, his defeat in 1815 brought an end to the French Empire. Even so, the Revolution and Napoleon had permanently changed Europe. Between 1700 and 1815, France journeyed from absolute monarchy to revolution and empire. The ideas unleashed during these turbulent years would reshape not only France, but the modern world itself. Spain, Empire under pressure, 1700 to 1808. Spain entered the 18th century under a new Bourbon dynasty after the War of the Spanish Succession. The new rulers launched sweeping reforms to strengthen royal authority and revive the empire. Yet despite these efforts, Spain gradually lost influence to rising powers such as Britain and France, while economic challenges continued to weigh on the kingdom. Even as its position in Europe weakened, Spain still governed one of the largest colonial empires on earth. From Mexico to Peru and across much of South America, vast territories remained under Spanish rule, supplying wealth and connecting continents through trade. Then came a dramatic turning point. In 1808, Napoleon's armies invaded Spain. What began as a foreign occupation quickly sparked widespread resistance, igniting a struggle that would reshape Spain and shake its global empire. Germany, the end of an ancient empire, 1700 to 1806. At the beginning of the 18th century, Germany did not exist as a unified nation. Instead, hundreds of kingdoms, duchies, bishoprics and free cities formed a complex patchwork within the Holy Roman Empire. Among these states, Prussia began to stand out. Through military reforms, disciplined administration, and a growing army, Prussia transformed itself into one of Europe's most powerful states. Its rise would eventually pave the way for German unification. But first came the shock of Napoleon. In 1806, after centuries of existence, the Holy Roman Empire was dissolved. An institution that had endured for nearly 1,000 years disappeared, marking the end of one era and the beginning of a new chapter in German history. Russia, from frontier kingdom to great power, 1700s to 1800s. While Western Europe competed for influence, Russia was rapidly emerging as a great power. Under Peter the Great, Russia underwent sweeping modernization. He built a powerful navy, reformed the military, and founded St. Petersburg in 1703, creating a new window to Europe. His successors continued this transformation. Under Catherine the Great, Russian territory expanded dramatically, and the empire became one of the dominant forces in European politics. At the same time, Russia pushed eastward across the vast wilderness of Siberia. Explorers, settlers, and soldiers advanced toward the Pacific Ocean, extending Russian influence across northern Asia and creating the largest continuous empire in history. India, the rise of British rule, 1707 to 1757. The once mighty Mughal Empire began to unravel after the death of Emperor Aurangzeb in 1707. Powerful regional kingdoms emerged, while imperial authority steadily weakened across the vast Indian subcontinent. Sensing opportunity, the British East India Company expanded its commercial presence into political and military influence. What began as trade soon became conquest. The decisive turning point came in 1757 at the Battle of Plassey, where the company's victories secured control of Bengal, one of India's richest provinces. This single battle transformed the British East India Company from a trading enterprise into a rising colonial power, laying the foundation for nearly 2 centuries of British rule in India. North America, a new nation is born, 1776 to early 1800s. Across the Atlantic, 13 British colonies chose a different path. In 1776, they declared independence, proclaiming that government should derive its power from the people rather than a distant monarch. After years of war, the United States emerged as a new republic founded on constitutional government and representative democracy. It was an experiment unlike any the world had seen. As the young nation looked westward, settlers began expanding beyond the Appalachian Mountains. The ideals of liberty and self-government would inspire democratic movements around the globe, while the United States embarked on its own journey of continental expansion. The Ottoman Empire, a giant, faces new rivals, 1700s to early 1800s. Despite centuries of dominance, the Ottoman Empire remained one of the world's great powers. Stretching across the Middle East, the Balkans, and parts of North Africa, it controlled vital trade routes linking Europe, Asia, and Africa. Yet new challenges were emerging. To the north, Russia expanded its military strength and sought access to warm water ports. To the west, Austria competed for influence in southeastern Europe. Frequent wars steadily weakened Ottoman control over its frontier regions. Although still vast and powerful, the empire had entered an era of mounting pressure, as old dominance gave way to an increasingly competitive balance of power.